Kakadosh Boker Or Daf Yomi Masechet Chullin Daf Samech Vav 66. So we're going to be starting today 66a1. We are talking about right now what is the machloka between them. Maika mipalge Tana dever Rav veTana dever Bishmael. So what was the Tana dever Rav and Tana Bishmael arguing about? Okay, so says the Gemara, so the machloka between them is we're talking about a chagav, which is a grasshopper that has a long head. Tana Dverav Savar, so the Tana Dverav holds, Asher lo kira'aim is a klal, right? That means that it has the legs is going to be a general rule. Arbe solam chargol chagav leminehu is a prat. When it says the grasshoppers, the types, whether it's going to be the locusts and the solam and the chargol chagav leminehu to its species, that's a specifics. Klal ufrat, emba klal masha prat. So it's only these prats. Temine in only if it's the same species. The lavimine no. Umerabi dami. So we're going to bring leminehu that it's going to be from both of the sides, which means the minim teorim that besides these four that have siman tara, even if it's not going to be rosham aroch, but if it's going to be rosham aroch, it's going to be tameh. V'tana v'ishmael savar asheloch ra'ayim is klal. Arbe sulam chargol chagav is a prat. Leminehu is another klal because it's to its species. So therefore, it's another generalization. So klal ufrat uchlal, when you have a generalization, specification, generalization, perat. So you're going to be making it like the perat, not exactly like the other one, which is klal ufrat. That's only the prat, but it's like the prat. So therefore, it's going to be compared to anything which is going to be even on one side. It's going to be compared to as well. So says the Gemara, yeah, but one second, the klal rishon is not domeh to the klal ha'acharon, meaning the first generalization is not bichlal compared to the last generalization. Klal kama, the first generalization is ashaloch ra'ayim rachmana, dit le'achol, that you're allowed to eat it. The le lo tochal, but if it doesn't have the kraim, you're not allowed to come, you're not allowed to eat it. The klal batra adeshavu barba simanim. The klal batra is telling you they need 4 simanim, not just this first siman. So the klal rishon and the klal acharon are not compared to each other. So answers the Gemara, that we still make klal uprat in such a scenario as well. Just like we say, from here we learn it that you can't make them, even though the klal, the first klal and the last klal are not 100% similar to each other, we could still judge them together. So Amar More says, Ishemo chagav, if the name is chagav, you're going to tell me that it doesn't have all these simanim. Until it has all these simanim. So where you're going to learn it from? Arbe v'chargol ktiv. It's written arbe and chargol. So says the Gemara, solam. If it wasn't written solam, kamarta, you're right. But now that it's written solam, it's coming to include if it has a longer head. So I would say anything. It's going to come to include anything. Kamashmaran comes to teach you that it's only going to be these 4 simanim that are going to be tahor. So Maishna hatam damarta solam ze rashan. Rashon, Chargol is Nipol, Solam is Nipol, Chargol is Rashon. Basically, again, we don't know what the differences are between these two types of grasshoppers, but why is it that the first time around we said that Solam is a Rashon and Chargol is a Nipol, and then afterwards we said the opposite, that the Solam was a Nipol and the Chargol is a Rashon. Again, either way, they're both kosher, but the only question is, why are we just switching the names around? So answers the Gemara, more kiatre. Each one they called it a different place and a different name in their place, and that's why we learned it like that. Okay. Next, the Mishnah says dagim. You remember that we said the siman of fish is that as long as it has fins and scales, napir v'kaskeset. So Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita, en lo achshav v'atid legadel lachar zman. What happens right now? It does not have the scales, but in the future it will get it. Kegon, for example, the sultanit or the afian, which are types of fish. Here it just says it's one of them is like a tuna, dagim blaz tunina, dag tuna. Okay, fine. And the other one, it doesn't actually say. Herring. Sultanit is a daga karui b'Yiddish herring. So the herring fish. So you got the herring or the tuna. Okay? So what happens? Hariz mutar. Or the other way around. Im yesh lo achshav, now it's got the scales. But when you take it out of the water, it sheds its scales. Kegon, for example, right? 66b. Akunas ve'apunas kaspatias ve'achspatias ve'atunas. Oh, akunas, apunas, kaftin. Right? What are all these things? And these are all names in Ivanit. It's not barur. Okay, so we don't know what these fish are. There are certain fish that they come and when they get out of the water, they shed their scales. So that's the question. So it says the Gemara, "Hare ze mutar." It's also mutar because since at the end of the day they did have right the how do you call this? Since at the end of the day they did have it, so therefore right we actually come and we say um, that it's going to be the that it's kosher because it still had scales right now. Okay. Tzanan Hatan. We learned also over there. כל שיש לו קסקסת, יש לו סנפיר, ויש לו סנפיר ואין לו קסקסת. יש לו קסקסת ויש לו סנפיר, דג טהור. יש לו סנפיר ואין לו קסקסת, דג טמא. Meaning this. Which one is the main factor? So he comes and he says, we learned in Masechet Nida that any fish that has scales has fins. So therefore, that's all. You don't even have to check for for the fins. All you have to check is for the scales. But sometimes you will have fins and they don't have scales. So if they do have the scales and therefore they have the fins, it's going to be dag tahor. But if it just has the fins and it doesn't have the scales, so therefore it's going to be a dag tameh. Okay, so michti akaskeset kasamchina, and so it comes out that we're only somech on the kaskeset, on the scales. So lichtor kaskeset lo lichtor snapir. So why do you have to write the snapir? Just write the kaskeset, write the scales in the gamarnu. So answers the Gemara, if it was only written the kaskeset, not the snapir, Havamina, what would I thought? What is the kaskeset? That's snapir. Fafilu dag tameh, therefore we're going to be include many dag tames. So katav rachmana snapir v'kaskeset, and now I know that snapir is the fins and the kaskeset is the scales. Because if not, that I would have just thought that was the name for it. V'hashta dechtav rachmana, but now that the Torah writes snapir v'kaskeset, mimai de kaskeset levusha hu. How do I know that the kaskeset is the levush? Which is basically because the scales is like its skin. Tichtiv v'shiryon kaskasim ulavush. That he's wearing the kaskasi. It's a type of a levush. Lichtov rachmana kaskas lo snapir. So just write kaskas and not snapir. So he says, no, we're trying to be magdil the Torah by adding in the snapir to tell you that it's a siman Torah, even though you could have only written it without it. Meaning, even without the snapir, it's still kosher. But we wanted magdil Torah, and therefore we wrote down also about the snapir as well. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Mimashmash ne'emar, from the fact that the pasuk says it's zeh tochelu, you're going to eat this. Achol et sheyeshlo, you're only going to eat that which it has it. Shomeani, so I'm going to learn from here. Al tochal et she'enlo, don't eat if it doesn't have snapir v'kaskeset. Mimashmash ne'emar, and from the fact that it's written, right? It says al tochal et she'enlo, shomeani, achol et sheyeshlo, velama and why? Shevelama shenayin, why do they learn it like that? Meaning you got a positive commandment and a negative commandment. Because it says anything which does not have the keset, you're not allowed to eat. And it's also you could only eat this. So therefore, when a person comes and he eats a non-kosher fish, he actually transgresses two avirot, a positive commandment, because it says you could only eat the ones that have the fins and the scales, and a negative commandment because it says if it does not have something, you're not allowed to eat these ones. So he's going to be over on a positive and a negative commandment. תאכלו מכל אשר במים. What does it coming to teach you? שיכול הואיל והתיר במפורש והתיר בסתם. The fact that it is permitted in מפורש and סתם. מה כשהתיר במפורש לא התיר בכלים only the כלים, אף כשהתיר בסתם לא התיר בכלים. מניין לרבו בורות שכיר מאורות ששוכב ושותה מהן. How do you know about also the different bodies of water, which is the בורות שכיר מאורות that you're going to come, you're going to drink, ונמנע, אתה לומר, תאכלו מכל אשר במים. היכן התיר כלים שבכלים? When did it come in and מתיר the כלים? תכתיב את זה תאכלו מכל אשר במים בימים מנחלים, הוא דכי לאכל דלת לא תאכל, if you're not going to eat it. הבכלים אף אגב דלת לאכול, right? Even if you're not going to have it, it's not going to eat it. So אימה בכלים אף אגב דאית לי, right? לא תאכל, right? You're not going to come, right? And you're not going to eat it. So says the Gemara, lo tzal kadaitach. He says, why? Dichtiv, it says in a pasuk, right? וכל אשר אינו סנפיר וקסקס בימים מנחלים מכל אשר יש במים, בימים מנחלים דלת לא תאכול, הבכלים אף אגב דלת לאכול, right? You should be eating it. ואימה, so ask the Gemara, במים כלל, בימים מנחלים is a prat. So, במים, meaning that this is going to be in the water as a generalization. בימים מנחלים, when the seas and the springs, right, it's going to be a prat. Right? He says, כלל ופרט, and כלל מה שבפרט, ימים מנחלים yes, ניצי וחליצי no, but not חפירות in the ground. So he says, B'mayim again is written, which is a klal again, right? So therefore, since it's going to be a klal, again, it's going to include everything. So Hani tre klal de smuchel adadinu. He says, 1 second, but it's written B'mayim and B'mayim, they're right beside each other. So how do you do a klal ufrat uklal? Because it says kol asher lo senapi v'kaskesa b'mayim. It's going to be right beside each other, right? So he comes and he says, right? He comes and he says. Mikol asher b'mayim, kol asher l'sof v'kaskes b'mayim. So Ravina comes and he says, Kedamri marava kol makom she'ata motze shne klalot. Whenever you find two clouds right beside each other, smukim zelazeh hatel prap benehem. Place the prap between them, and then you're going to judge a klal ufrat uchlan.